My son Lucas invited me to a Thanksgiving dinner, promising to make amends. I arrived hopeful, only to find lawyers with papers to seize my business. Their smug smiles screamed victory, but I just laughed. "Guys, you're too late," I said, feeling the weight of betrayal lift. My revenge was sweet, but the road to it was a war I hadn't planned. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The office smelled of stale coffee and polished wood, a familiar comfort that wrapped around me like an old coat. I leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking under my weight, and stared at the spreadsheet glowing on my screen. Numbers danced, shipments, routes, profits, all proof of the life I'd built with my logistics company. At 62, I was tired, sure, but proud. The framed photo of Lucas on my desk caught my eye, his 8-year-old grin frozen in time, back when he'd run to me with muddy knees and wild dreams. I smiled, but the ache in my chest lingered. The door swung open without a knock, shattering the quiet. Lucas strode in, his polished shoes clicking on the hardwood. Behind him, Amelia, her lips a tight line, clutched a manila folder like a weapon. My heart lifted for a split second, my son, here, unannounced. Maybe he'd come to talk, to mend things. But the folder hit my desk with a thud, papers spilling like confetti, and I knew this wasn't a reunion. "Dad," Lucas said, his voice sharp, "we need to talk about the company." I straightened, the ache in my chest tightening. "What's this about?" My eyes flicked to Amelia, who stood by the window, arms crossed, her silk blouse catching the lamplight. She didn't meet my gaze. Lucas paced, his fingers brushing the edge of my desk, lingering on a glass award I'd won last year. "You're holding us back," he said. "The company's stuck in the 90s. It needs fresh blood, new ideas." He stopped, turning to face me, his jaw set. "It needs me." I blinked, the words sinking in like stones. "You think I'm, what, obsolete?" My voice stayed calm, but my hands clenched under the desk, knuckles whitening. Amelia spoke, her tone smooth as ice. "William, it's not personal. We just want what's best for the business. Modern leadership, modern results." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I glanced at the photo of Lucas again, the frame's faint crack spiderwebbing across the glass. When had that happened? "Modern," I repeated, tasting the word. "Or just convenient for you two?" Lucas's eyes narrowed. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Sign the papers, step back. Retire. You've earned it." He nudged the folder closer, his fingers grazing the edge like he owned it already. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I remember teaching Lucas to drive a forklift in the warehouse, his laughter echoing off the crates. Now he stood here, dismantling everything. My pulse thudded in my ears, but I kept my voice steady. "I built this company from nothing. It's mine. You don't get to waltz in and demand it." Amelia's laugh was sharp, a knife slicing the tension. "Oh, William. You're so sentimental. It's sweet, really, but it's not practical." She stepped closer, her heels clicking. "Think about the future. Our future." Lucas leaned in, his voice low. "You're making a mistake, Dad. We'll do this my way if you don't cooperate." He straightened, adjusting his tie, his face unreadable. My throat burned, but I forced a smile. "You're welcome to try." The words felt like gravel, but they held. Amelia's eyes gleamed, predatory. "You'll regret this," she said, turning toward the door. Lucas followed, the folder still sprawled across my desk like a challenge. The door clicked shut, and the silence roared. I sat there, staring at Lucas's photo, my fingers brushing the cracked frame. The clock on the wall ticked, each second a reminder of time slipping away. I reached for my phone, my thumb hovering over a number, someone, anyone, but I stopped. Not yet. I stood, my knees stiff, and grabbed my coat. The office lights flickered as I stepped out, the Chicago skyline a blur beyond the window. Whatever Lucas was planning, I'd face it. But first, I needed to think. The hum of my car's engine was the only sound as I drove through the Chicago suburbs, streetlights casting long shadows across the dashboard. My hands gripped the wheel, the leather cool against my palms. Lucas's words echoed in my head, my way, and I couldn't shake the image of his 8-year-old self, wobbling on a bike I'd steadied for him. Where had that boy gone? The city blurred past, and I let the ache settle, heavy as the autumn air. In their house across town, Lucas and Amelia were already moving. Their living room gleamed with excess, crystal chandelier, marble floors, no warmth. Lucas stood by the bar cart, pouring whiskey, his phone pressed to his ear. "Yeah, tell them William's slipping," he said, his voice clipped. "Too old, too slow. We need change." He hung up, smirking, and turned to Amelia, who sat on a velvet sofa, scrolling through her phone. "He didn't budge," Lucas said, swirling his glass. "Thinks he's untouchable." Amelia didn't look up. "He's stubborn, not invincible. We'll make him see reason." Her fingers paused, then tapped out a text. "I'm meeting Claire tomorrow. She'll spread the word, William's losing his edge." Her lips curved, cold and calculated. Lucas snorted. "Good. Let's see how long he lasts when his precious reputation cracks." Back in the city, I sat in a corner booth at the Beanery, a cafe where the smell of roasted coffee mixed with the rustle of turning pages. Tom, an old friend and supplier, slid into the seat across from me, his brow furrowed. The afternoon sun slanted through the window, catching the steam rising from my untouched latte. "William, what's going on?" Tom asked, leaning forward. "I'm hearing things. People saying you're slipping. That the company's in trouble." I froze, the cup halfway to my lips. "Who's saying that?" My voice was steady, but my pulse wasn't. Tom shrugged, uneasy. "It's just chatter. Clients, competitors. You know how it spreads." He hesitated, then added, "Is it true? You stepping down?" I set the cup down, the ceramic clinking too loudly. "No," I said, meeting his eyes. "Let them talk." But the words felt hollow. Lucas's threat, Amelia's smile, they were already working, poisoning the ground I'd spent decades tending. That night, I pulled into my driveway, the house dark except for a porch light flickering like a heartbeat. Inside, I dropped my keys on the counter and checked the mail, my fingers sifting through bills and junk. Then I saw it, a crisp envelope, the kind that screamed trouble. The return address, a law firm. My stomach twisted as I tore it open, the paper cool and sharp. A single line stood out, notice of intent. I sank into a chair, the letter trembling in my hands. Outside, leaves fell, spiraling in the wind, each one a whisper of what was coming. Lucas and Amelia weren't bluffing. They'd started a war, and this was their opening shot. I folded the letter, my jaw tight, and stared out the window. They thought they had me cornered. They were wrong. Rain streaked the windows of my office, blurring the Chicago skyline into a gray smear. I sat at my desk, the letter from Lucas's lawyer open in front of me. Words like incompetence and mismanagement burned into my eyes, each one a betrayal sharper than the last. My fingers traced the edge of the paper, the weight of it grounding me as my mind spun. Lucas, my own son, was suing me to take the company. I taught him to tie his shoes, to dream big, and now this. The phone rang, a client's name flashing on the screen. I answered, forcing my voice to stay even. "Hey, Mike, what's up?" But his tone was all wrong, distant, clipped. By the time I hung up, my hands were shaking. Another contract gone, the third this week. I leaned back, the chair creaking, and stared at the family photo on my desk. Lucas's smile mocked me. I needed air, answers. I drove to the Steer House, a restaurant where the clink of glasses and smell of grilled meat usually steadied me. Mike was there, waiting at a high-top table, his tie loosened. I slid into the seat, hoping for clarity. "William," he said, not meeting my eyes, "we're moving our account. Nothing personal, just business." His fork scraped his plate. The sound grating. "After 10 years?" My voice cracked, betraying me. "Mike, what's going on?" He shrugged, his gaze fixed on his steak. "Times change. We need someone hungrier." The word stung, and I knew who'd planted it. Back at the office, I paced, the rain louder now, like a drumbeat. I couldn't lose everything, not like this. On impulse, I grabbed the letter and drove to a modest brick building downtown, the address of a lawyer I'd never met. The sign read, "Marshall and Associates." I pushed through the door, the smell of old books and lemon polish hitting me. Ellen Marshall stood behind a cluttered desk, her gray hair pulled back, her eyes sharp but kind. "Mr. Crow," she said, extending a hand. "I've read the notice. Your son's playing dirty." I sank into a chair, the weight of the day pressing down. "I don't want a war," I said, my voice low. "But I can't let him take it." Ellen leaned forward, her pen tapping the desk. "He's counting on you folding. We won't let that happen." Her confidence was a lifeline, but doubt gnawed at me. Could I fight my own son? Across town, Lucas and Amelia clinked champagne flutes in their sterile dining room. "He's crumbling," Lucas said, grinning. "A few more pushes, and it's ours." Amelia sipped her drink, her eyes narrowing. "Don't underestimate him. He's not as weak as you think." That night, back in my office, I ran the numbers. The losses were piling up, clients, revenue, time. My fingers brushed an old photo of the company's first truck, parked outside a warehouse I'd rented with my last dime. I'd built this from nothing. I wasn't done yet. I stood, the photo in my hand, and whispered to the empty room, "This isn't over." Outside, the rain slowed, and I felt a spark ignite. Lucas thought he'd won the first round. He had no idea what was coming. The living room was quiet, save for the faint creak of my armchair as I shifted. A photo album lay open on my lap, its leather cover worn from years of handling. The picture I stared at was from a summer long gone, Lucas, maybe 6, his cheeks smeared with watermelon juice, laughing as he chased a firefly across a picnic blanket. I could still hear his giggle, high and free, the kind that made my chest ache with pride. Now, that ache was something else entirely. I traced the edge of the photo, the paper cool under my fingertip, and let the memories pull me under. I'd started the company with nothing but a beat-up truck and a stubborn streak. Nights spent mapping routes on a kitchen table, Lucas asleep in the next room. I'd paid for his college, his first car, his dreams, all from the sweat of this business. I'd given him his first job here, watching his eyes light up as he learned the ropes. "I want to be like you, Dad," he'd said once, his voice so earnest it hurt. I'd believed him. The album felt heavier now. I flipped the page, landing on a shot of us at the company's 10th anniversary, Lucas in a too-big suit, grinning beside me. When had he stopped looking at me like that? I shut the album, the snap echoing in the empty house, and stood. My knees protested, but I needed air. Outside, the park was a patchwork of fallen leaves, their rustle underfoot blending with the distant laughter of kids. I walked the gravel path, hands in my coat pockets, the October chill biting my knuckles. A family passed, a dad hoisting his daughter onto his shoulders, her squeals piercing the dusk. I looked away, the memory of Lucas on my own shoulders too sharp. Had I missed something, some moment when he'd turned? My phone buzzed, jarring me. It was Pete, a warehouse manager who'd been with me for decades. "Boss," he said, his voice low, "there's talk. Lucas is calling around, saying you're stepping down. Some folks are nervous." I stopped, my breath catching. "He's wrong, Pete," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "You know that, right?" "Damn right I do," he said. "Just thought you should know." He hung up, and I stood there, the wind tugging at my scarf. Lucas wasn't just coming for the company, he was trying to break it from the inside. Back home, I sank into the armchair again, the album forgotten. Instead, I pulled a file from a drawer, an old binder stuffed with company records. Contracts, dreams inked on paper. I flipped through, my eyes catching on the first lease I'd signed, the one that had nearly bankrupted me. I'd fought then. I could fight now. The papers rustled as I set them on the coffee table, their edges curling like secrets. My gaze drifted to my phone, the screen dark but tempting. I wanted to call someone, Ellen, maybe, or Pete again, but what would I say? That my son was tearing me apart? I picked up the phone, my thumb hovering, and whispered to the empty room, "Time to remind them who I am." The words felt like a promise, fragile but real. The phone was heavy in my hand, its screen glowing in the dim living room. I'd been staring at Ellen's number for too long, my thumb frozen. Last night's resolve, those whispered words about reminding them who I was, felt distant in the morning light. But Lucas's betrayal wasn't waiting, and neither could I. I hit call. "William," Ellen answered, her voice crisp. "Ready to fight?" I exhaled, the knot in my chest loosening. "I'm ready to talk. Can we meet?" An hour later, I was in my car, the Chicago skyline looming through a haze of clouds. The drive to Ellen's office was a blur, my mind churning. Could I really take on my own son? The man I'd raised, loved, trusted. But the image of that lawsuit, those cold words, incompetence, burned away the doubt. I parked and stepped into the chill, my coat flapping as I crossed the street. Ellen's office was a haven of order, books stacked neatly, a faint coffee scent lingering. She stood as I entered, her gray hair catching the light. "Sit," she said, gesturing to a chair. "I've been digging into Lucas's claim. It's aggressive, but sloppy. We can push back." I sank into the seat, my hands clasped tight. "I don't want to destroy him, Ellen," I said, my voice low. "Not yet." Her eyes softened, but her tone stayed firm. "He's betting you'll go soft. We'll prove he's wrong." She slid a file across the desk, her pen tapping. "Start with the board. Rally your people. Lucas is spreading doubt, we'll spread truth." We walked to a nearby cafeteria, its windows fogged from the heat inside. Over weak coffee, Ellen laid out ideas, legal counters, employee meetings, a PR push. Her humor cut through the tension. "This coffee's awful," she said, grimacing, "but our plan. That's gold." I managed a smile, the first in days. "I'm listening," I said, leaning in. Her confidence was contagious, and for the first time, I felt the ground steady beneath me. Back in my car, I called Pete. The line crackled, his voice gruff. "Boss, some guys are wavering. Lucas's talk is getting to them." "Then I'll talk louder," I said. "You with me, Pete?" "Always," he said, and I could hear his grin. "That's enough for now." That night, I sat at my kitchen table, a notebook open. I scribbled ideas, names, dates, strategies, each word a step toward reclaiming what was mine. The pen scratched, the sound sharp in the quiet. Ellen's plan, Pete's loyalty, my own stubborn heart, they were enough to start. I closed the notebook and leaned back, my eyes on the ceiling. The car keys lay beside me, glinting under the lamp. I grabbed them, my grip tight on the wheel as I sat in the driveway, the engine off. The notebook rested on the passenger seat, its pages full of fight. "This is my move," I thought, the words a spark in the dark. I wasn't done yet. The office buzzed with nervous energy, the hum of the air conditioner barely covering the shuffle of feet. I stood at the head of the conference table, facing a dozen employees, my team, my family in a way Lucas never understood. Their eyes were wary, some darting to the door. Lucas's whispers had done their work, but I wasn't here to lose them. "Folks," I said, my voice steady, "you know me. We built this company together, every late night, every tough call. They want to take that from us." I paused, meeting their gazes. "I say they don't get to." Pete nodded from the back, his arms crossed. A few others straightened, their doubt softening. "We're with you, boss," said Maria, a dispatcher with a steel spine. The room murmured agreement, and I felt the tide shift. That afternoon, I drove to the warehouse on Chicago's outskirts. The rain drumming on my windshield. The lot was a maze of crates and forklifts, the air thick with dust and oil. I'd heard rumors, Lucas had swayed a key client, Carter Logistics, to jump ship. I needed proof. Inside, I combed through shipping logs, my flashlight cutting through the dim. There it was, a contract addendum, buried in a stack, showing Carter had breached terms for a side deal. Amelia's name was scrawled in the margins. My pulse quickened. This was my leverage. Back in my car, I dialed Carter's CEO, my voice ice. "John, I know about your deal with Amelia," I said. "Break it off, or this goes public." He stammered, caught. "Give me a day, William. Please." "You've got 12 hours, I said, hanging up. The rain slowed, and I leaned back, adrenaline singing in my veins. Across town, Lucas's house was a fortress of glass and ego. He stood in the dining room, a wineglass in hand, when his phone rang. His face darkened as he listened. "He did what?" he snapped, slamming the glass down. It shattered, wine pooling like blood. Amelia, lounging nearby, didn't flinch. "He's fighting back," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "We need to move faster." Lucas spun, his eyes wild. "He's a relic. He can't outmaneuver us." She arched a brow. "Then why are you shouting?" Back at the warehouse, I stood among the crates, the contract in my hand. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy, the city lights faint beyond the lot. I tucked the papers into my coat, their weight a promise. This was my first strike, clean and sharp. But it was only the beginning. I looked out at the wet asphalt, my reflection blurred in a puddle, and thought, let them come. The air in Ellen's office was thick with the scent of paper and fresh coffee, a grounding contrast to the storm brewing in my head. I sat across from her, the contract from the warehouse, my ace, spread out on the desk. Its creased edges curled like a secret waiting to be told. Ellen's pen tapped rhythmically, her eyes scanning the pages. "This is good, William," she said, leaning back. Carter's backed off. "You've got leverage. But what's next?" I shifted, my fingers brushing the armrest. "Something bigger," I said, my voice low. "I'm not just saving the company. I'm making sure they can't touch it." The words felt like a vow, but I kept the details locked tight, even from her. She raised an eyebrow, her lips twitching. "You sure you want to play it this close to the chest?" "No choice," I said, meeting her gaze. "They've got eyes everywhere." Ellen nodded, sliding a file toward me. "Then let's lock things down. I can draft a trust, something ironclad to protect your assets. But you'll need to move fast." "Fast is my only speed now," I said, managing a half smile. That evening, we sat in a quiet restaurant overlooking Lake Michigan, the water's surface rippling under the city lights. The clink of glasses and soft jazz muffled our words as Ellen outlined the next step, a meeting with someone who could secure the company's future. "He's discreet," she said, sipping her wine. "And he's got the capital. You ready to bring him in?" I nodded, my mind racing. "Set it up." But no names yet, not even to me. The secrecy felt like a shield, one I'd need against Lucas's reach. Back at my apartment, I paced the living room, the fireplace crackling as I dialed a number I'd memorized. The line clicked, and a gruff voice answered. "It's me," I said, my tone clipped. "Everything needs to stay quiet. No leaks, no traces." "You've got my word," the man said. "We'll talk soon." The call ended, and I exhaled, the weight of the plan settling deeper. I sank into a chair, pulling out a stack of old contracts from a drawer. My fingers traced the faded ink, deals I'd fought for, risks I'd taken. Each one a brick in the empire Lucas thought he could steal. I scribbled notes, numbers, and names, the pen scratching like a heartbeat. Ellen's draft arrived by email, a dense wall of legal terms. I read it by the fire's glow, each clause a step toward freedom. The company would be safe, untouchable. But the cost gnawed at me. I stood, the draft in hand, and crossed to the window. Chicago sprawled below, its lights pulsing like a challenge. The lake churned beyond, dark and restless. They don't know they've lost yet, I thought, the words a quiet fire in my chest. The draft felt heavier now, a key to a door I was almost ready to open. Rain battered my office windows, the drops streaking like tears across the glass. I sat at my desk, the glow of my phone casting shadows as a new message from Lucas blinked. "We're not done. Expect papers tomorrow." My jaw tightened. Another lawsuit, this one accusing me of financial misconduct. The words blurred, each one a fresh cut. I pushed the phone away, my hands trembling, and tried to focus on the spreadsheet in front of me. Numbers, routes, shipments, my world, slipping through my fingers. Across town, Lucas and Amelia stood in their gleaming kitchen, the marble counter cluttered with legal documents. Lucas paced, his phone pressed to his ear. "File it now," he snapped. "I want him buried." He hung up, his eyes glinting. Amelia leaned against the counter, her fingers tracing the rim of a wineglass. "You're sure about this?" she asked, her voice smooth but edged. "He's got no moves left," Lucas said, smirking. "He'll crack." My phone rang, shattering the office's silence. Amelia's name flashed, and my stomach twisted. I answered, bracing myself. "William," she purred, "we know about that old loan you never paid back. Messy, isn't it? It'd be a shame if it came up now." I gripped the phone, my knuckles white. "Don't drag the past into this," I said, my voice low, steady despite the rage bubbling inside. "You've got nothing." "Keep telling yourself that," she said, and the line went dead. I couldn't stay in the office. The walls felt too close, the air too thick. I grabbed my coat and drove to a park nearby, the rain soaking my shoulders as I walked. The paths were empty, the leaves sodden and clinging to my shoes. I stopped by a bench, my breath fogging in the cold, when a familiar voice called out. "William? What are you doing out here?" Ellen stood under an umbrella, her coat buttoned tight. I managed a weak smile. "Trying not to drown," I said. She joined me, her umbrella shielding us both. "Lucas is escalating," she said, her tone matter of fact. "But they're sloppy. Those accusations. They're half-baked. We can counter." "I'm tired, Ellen," I admitted, the words slipping out. "But I'm not done." "Good," she said, her eyes warm. "Because they're bluffing. We just need to be faster." Back at her office, the smell of chamomile tea grounded me as she spread out files. "Lucas is trying to fabricate evidence," she said, pointing to a report. "Fake invoices, doctored emails. It's desperate, and it's our opening." I leaned forward, my pulse quickening. "Then we hit them with it," I said. "Expose the fraud." Ellen grinned. "Now you're talking." I left her office, a folder of evidence tucked under my arm. The rain had slowed, but the city felt alive, electric. My phone buzzed again, another message from Lucas. I didn't open it, not yet. The folder in my hand was my answer, sharp and ready. I stepped into the night, the wet pavement reflecting the city's glow, and felt the fight reignite. The fire in my living room crackled, casting flickering shadows across the coffee table where my phone lay. Lucas's message glowed on the screen, Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow. Let's make amends. 7 p.m., our place. I read it twice, the words dripping with false warmth. Amends? After lawsuits, threats, and lies. My lips curled into a wry smile. They thought they could play me, but I saw the trap from a mile away. Still, curiosity tugged. What was their angle? I dialed Ellen, pacing as the line rang. They've invited me to dinner, I said when she picked up. Thanksgiving. Says they want peace. Ellen snorted. Peace? That's a wolf in a turkey costume. Meet me at the brew. We need to talk. An hour later, I slid into a booth at the cafe, the air thick with the scent of espresso and cinnamon. Holiday lights twinkled outside, their cheer mocking the tension in my chest. Ellen sat across from me, her scarf draped over the chair. It's a setup, she said, stirring her latte. They'll push you to sign something. Maybe wave those fake invoices in your face. You ready for it? I leaned back, my fingers tapping the table. Let them think they're winning, I said. I've got my own plans. Her eyes narrowed, but she grinned. You're scary when you're smug, you know that. Learn from the best, I shot back, and we both laughed, the sound easing the weight for a moment. Across town, Lucas and Amelia stood in their dining room, the table set with crystal and silver, a stage for their charade. Lucas adjusted a napkin, his movements sharp. He'll sign, he said, his voice brimming with certainty. One push, and he's done. Amelia, arranging a centerpiece, tilted her head. Don't rush it, she said, her tone cool. He's stubborn. We need him off balance first. Lucas smirked. Oh, he will be. Back at my office, I sat at my desk, the city's glow filtering through the blinds. I opened a file, final details of the deal I'd been weaving for weeks. Numbers, clauses, signatures, all aligned to lock the company out of Lucas's reach. My pen hovered over the page, the ink a quiet triumph. I'd sell it, yes, but on my terms, to someone who'd keep its heart intact. The details were set, the meeting tomorrow morning. Lucas didn't know it, but his game was already over. I texted him back, my fingers steady, I'll be there. Looking forward to it. The words were a mask, hiding the fire beneath. I stood, stretching, and glanced at the old photo of Lucas on my desk, its cracked frame a reminder of what I'd lost, and what I'd protect. That night, I stood before the mirror in my bedroom, adjusting my tie. The silk slid through my fingers, smooth and sure. Tomorrow was their stage, but I'd be the one directing. I met my own eyes in the glass, the lines on my face mapping every battle I'd won. They'll find out soon enough, I thought, the words a spark in the quiet. The tie tightened, and I turned away, ready for the fight. The car's engine hummed softly as I idled outside Lucas and Amelia's house, the Chicago suburbs draped in a thin frost. My phone buzzed, Ellen's message, stick to the plan. You've got this. I exhaled, the air clouding in the cold, and tucked the phone away. My tie felt snug, a quiet reminder of the armor I'd donned. I was ready, not just for their game, but to end it. The sale was done, the company safe in hands I trusted. Lucas didn't know it yet, but his empire of lies was about to crumble. I stepped out, the gravel crunching under my shoes, and approached the house. Its windows glowed, a facade of warmth masking the chill within. The door swung open, and Lucas greeted me, his smile too wide, too polished. Dad, he said, clapping my shoulder, glad you made it. Happy Thanksgiving. Amelia stood behind him, her dress shimmering like ice, her eyes sharp. William, she purred, come in. We've got a feast. I nodded, my own smile a careful mask, and followed them inside. The dining room was a stage, crystal glasses glinting, candles flickering, the scent of roasted turkey heavy in the air. We sat, the small talk brittle, each word a step toward their trap. Lucas raised a glass. To family, he said, his voice syrupy. And moving forward together. I clinked my glass, my eyes locked on his. To moving forward, I echoed, the words laced with irony they didn't catch. Halfway through the meal, the door opened again. 2 men in suits entered, their briefcases snapping open like jaws. Mr. Crow, one said, sliding a thick folder across the table, these documents transfer the company to Lucas. Sign, and we'll keep this civil. Amelia leaned forward, her smile tight. It's time, William. For everyone's sake. I picked up the folder, its weight familiar, like the contracts I'd signed decades ago to build this life. I flipped a page, then another, my fingers slow, deliberate. Lucas watched, his fork hovering, his confidence a thin veneer. I looked up, meeting their eyes, and a laugh broke free, low, sharp, unstoppable. What's so funny? Lucas snapped, his voice cracking. I closed the folder, tossing it back across the table. Guys, you're too late, I said, my voice steady, cutting. I sold the company this morning. Those papers. They're worthless. The room froze. Amelia's glass trembled in her hand, wine sloshing. Lucas's face drained, his jaw slack. You're lying, he hissed, standing so fast his chair scraped the floor. Check the news tomorrow, I said, rising. It's done. The company's safe, and you get nothing. The lawyers fumbled, their papers scattering like leaves. Amelia's eyes burned, but she said nothing, her silence louder than any scream. I turned for the door, my heart pounding but light, the weight of betrayal lifting with each step. The cold air hit me as I stepped outside, the stars sharp above. I reached for my phone to call Ellen, my thumb hovering, when I heard footsteps behind me. Lucas's shadow loomed in the porch light, his breath ragged. I paused, the phone still in my hand, and waited. The parking lot was a pool of shadows, the frost glinting under the streetlights. Lucas's footsteps crunched behind me, his voice raw. You can't do this, he shouted, grabbing my arm. That company was mine. You owed me. I turned, slow, my eyes steady on his. His face was twisted, the boy I'd raised gone, replaced by this stranger choking on greed. You lost it the moment you betrayed me, I said, my voice cold, each word a blade. You don't get to rewrite that. He staggered back, his hands balled into fists. I'll fight this, he spat. You'll regret it. I shook my head, almost pitying him. Good luck, I said, and walked to my car. The door slammed shut, the sound final, like a gate closing. Inside their house, chaos reigned. Amelia stood amid the wreckage of the dinner, plates shoved aside, a wineglass shattered against the wall, its shards glinting like broken promises. You said he was weak, she hissed, her voice venomous, her eyes on Lucas as he paced. You pushed for the lawyers, he shot back, his finger jabbed in the air. This is your fault. She laughed, bitter and sharp. My fault? You're the one who thought you could bully him. The room crackled with their rage, their plans crumbling like ash. My phone rang as I drove, Lucas's name flashing. I let it go to voicemail, then another, his voice crackling through, Dad, please, let's talk. I'm sorry. Amelia's call followed, her tone softer, calculated. William, we got carried away. Can we start over? I didn't answer. Their words were empty, too late. I pulled into the lot near Ellen's office, the city quiet under a fresh dusting of snow. Her office was warm, the smell of tea welcoming as I sank into a chair. Well, she asked, her eyes twinkling. How'd it go? Told them the company's gone, I said, a grin tugging at my lips. They didn't take it well. She laughed, loud and free. You crushed M. Proud of yourself? I leaned back, the tension easing. Not proud, I said. But I'm free. Ellen slid a mug of tea across the desk, her smile soft. You earned it, William. Every bit. I sipped the tea, its warmth spreading through me. My phone buzzed again, Lucas, then Amelia. I powered it off, the screen going dark, a door shut tight. The fight was over, and I'd won, but the victory was heavy, laced with the ghost of what might have been. I stepped out of Ellen's office, the mug still in my hand, the city sparkling under a blanket of snow. The air was sharp, clean, and I let it fill my lungs. I thought of tomorrow, of what came next, the future wide and uncharted. The snow crunched under my boots, each step a promise I wasn't sure I'd keep. The park was a winter painting, snow dusting the paths, holiday lights twinkling through the bare branches. Ellen walked beside me, her scarf bundled tight, her breath clouding in the morning chill. We'd left her office behind, the weight of last night's victory still settling. So, she said, her voice light, you pulled off the impossible. Sold the company, outsmarted the vipers. What's next? I shoved my hands deeper into my coat pockets, the snow crunching underfoot. Something new, I said, my eyes on the horizon. Something mine. The words felt fragile, like the first buds after a long freeze. Lucas's face flickered in my mind, his laugh as a boy, his rage last night. I let it pass, the ache dull but present. We wandered into a cafe. Its windows fogged, the air rich with hot chocolate and cinnamon. We grabbed a corner table, the wood warm under my fingers. Ellen leaned forward, her eyes bright. You could start small, she said. A consultancy, maybe. Or something wild, like a vineyard. I'd back you. I chuckled, the sound easing the knot in my chest. You've done enough, Ellen. More than enough. She waved me off. Nonsense. We're a team now. Say the word, and I'm in. The idea of a new venture sparked something, not the fire of my old company, but a quieter flame, steady. I sipped my drink, the warmth spreading, and let myself imagine it, a fresh start, no shadows of betrayal. For the first time in months, I felt light, like I could breathe. Back at my apartment, the quiet wrapped around me, broken only by the creak of the floorboards. I pulled out the old photo album, its leather soft from years of touch. Lucas's face stared up, frozen at 10, his grin wide as he held a model truck I'd given him. I lingered, the memories sharp, his small hand in mine, his dreams I'd carried. But I closed the album, sliding it into a drawer. That chapter was done. I sat at my desk, a blank page before me. I started writing, the words pouring out, a letter to Lucas I'd never send. I loved you, I wrote, but you chose your path. I hope you find peace, but it won't be with me. The pen trembled, but I kept going, each word a release, a door closing, soft but firm. Later, I stepped onto the balcony, a mug of coffee in hand. The city stretched below, dusted with snow, its lights a promise of tomorrows. I thought of the company, safe now, its legacy intact. I thought of Ellen, her laugh, her strength. I thought of me, 62 and starting over. A smile tugged at my lips, small but real. This is just the beginning, I thought, the words warm against the cold. The coffee steamed, and I leaned into the dawn, ready for whatever came next. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.
Turn on the camera, now. The chilling text from an unknown number hit me like a blow during dinner with my daughter. Her laughter filled the room, warm and familiar, but the message promised chaos. As she grabbed